Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to this early morning, middle of the night bonus upload. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click the bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to this early morning, middle of the night bonus upload, shall we? Today's first Dogman encounter brings us to Deadwood, Alberta, August of 1996. The witness lives on a sizable piece of land near Deadwood, Alberta. He raises, boards, and breeds horses for a living. One night in early August of 1996, the witness was awoken by sounds of panicked horses. He said that they sounded as if they were being or were going to be attacked by something. He grabs his 250,000 candle power spotlight and a 20-gauge shotgun, heads out towards the sounds. It should also be noted that his dog refused to leave the house with him, which is very unusual as this dog is trained for running off animals that may attempt to harm the horses. As he approaches the corral where several Shetland ponies were being kept, he spots movement. He clicked on his spotlight and shined the beam over that area. When the beam passed over the corner section of the corral, he spotted what he thought was a large timber wolf. This surprised him as he had never had problems with wolves before. Yet this wolf was making itself a problem. So he goes and shouts, "Hey, yeah, get out of here." What happened next shocked and stunned him. The wolf spun towards him and stood up on its hind legs. He estimated the creature's height between 6.5 to 7 feet tall. The color was jet black and the eye shine was a greenish yellow. He immediately points the shotgun at it and pulls back both hammers. When he does this, the creature begins to emit a growling sound, a vocalization that the witness describes as a steady and somewhat guttural growl. He remembers whispering to himself, "Oh my God, this isn't possible," over and over again. As he does this, the creature starts to go down into a crouch. The witness took this to mean the creature was going to lunge at him, so he fires the shotgun in its direction. The creature drops to all fours and bolts faster than he thought possible for any animal to move in the forest. After the creature moved out of view, the witness began to have a very uncomfortable feeling, like he was being watched. What he described as an unreasonable fear came over him, and he fled towards the home as fast as he could move. He considered calling the police, but soon canceled that thought. What would he tell them, that he'd just fired at a werewolf? No, he kept it to himself, only telling his daughter when she was in her late teens. When asked if the witness thought he hit the creature with the shotgun, he believes he did, but the damage would have been minimal. He was using number 7 birdshot. The worst that may have happened was that the pellets caused a stinging pain. The duration and distance of the creature from him was about 45 seconds and 40 to 50 yards. He will remain nameless because of a fear that the headache would cause his small community, and he wishes to avoid that at all costs. He seemed quite surprised when told that creatures like this has been spotted all over the United States and even Quebec. The witness seriously thought the creature was a werewolf, as he had nothing else to compare it to. He said that he lived in worry, if not fear, for a number of years afterwards, wondering if it was going to pay him another visit. His biggest fear was it would come back and harm his wife or his daughter. The creature was never sighted again by the witness, and no other similar reports have surfaced. Asked the witness if he thought it was a person in costume, and he gave a resounding no to that question. He said it looked too natural, and the speed that it moved was something that a person in a suit could never accomplish. He also said that no one in the area would be foolish enough to pull a stunt like that, because the end result would most likely be shot. We returned back to Deadwood, Alberta for our second encounter. A report was received about an unusual wolf-like creature from a fellow this past summer. He was hiking Mount Baldi Trail here in Alberta when the encounter occurred. The behavior of the animal was extremely unwolf-like. It was unresponsive and unafraid of things that a wild animal would be afraid of. Anyway, here's the report as received. I managed to get a few days off of work, so I decided to hit some trails to do some hiking and exploring. I chose the trails around Mount Baldi because I had been there many times before and knew them well. I was carrying a canteen of water, a small backpack containing a small first aid kit, a couple of well-wrapped snack bars, a small emergency survival kit, my digital camera. I was also carrying a .410 single-shot shotgun, which I take with me on all my hikes and camping trips. I was about halfway through the trailhead of Mount Baldi when I was surprised by a very large wolf that had just walked out onto the trail and stood there blocking my way. At first I was concerned because this creature was quite a bit larger than any timber wolf I had ever seen, captive or wild. But the creature seemed content to simply stand there and stare at me. I spoke to it, and it didn't show any sign of hearing me, no raising of the ears, etc. I yelled at it to get out of the way, and it still did nothing. I began to feel uncomfortable, so I started to back away, but the creature then came towards me. I stopped, and so it did. I then took my shotgun off my shoulder and fired it into the air. Once again, the creature didn't seem to care. All it did was glance at the weapon and then right back at me. By this time, I had a nagging feeling in my head that this was not an ordinary wolf. It just didn't behave like a wild animal, so I reached into my backpack and removed my digital camera. This was the only thing that seemed to cause it to waver in its behavior. For as I raised the camera to take a picture of it, it darted into the woods. I took this moment to beat and retreat back down the trail towards a more open area. The next part of the story may make you disbelieve the entire account, but I'm going to say it regardless. When I looked back up the trail, the creature was standing next to a large pine tree, but it was standing on its back legs. Now, I suppose it could have been using the tree for support, but it didn't look like it. I raised the camera once more, and it disappeared back into the woods. Now, what kind of wild animal is more afraid of a camera than a gun? This is why I don't believe I was dealing with an ordinary wolf. I may go as far to say it was on the fringe of paranormal. Needless to say, I will not be hiking those trails ever again, armed or not. I know for certain that this was not somebody's escaped dog. It was a wild creature. It looked rough and had a feral look to it. This next encounter brings us to England. I thought I'd tell you about my black shuck sighting, as it was pretty recent, about 10 years ago, and there's been lots of witnesses. The area mentioned is St. Nicholas Church in Basildon, Essex. When I was 14 or 15, I spent a lot of time outdoors, messing around with a large group of friends. We would meet up after school, hang around the street corners, causing mayhem, the usual teenage antics. Because we were such a large group, sometimes as many as 30 people, we were often moved on from our little spots by the police and had to find new homes, kind of like a wandering band of nomads. I'm pretty sure it was October of '99 when this happened, and we had recently begun hanging around at an old church on a big hill near my house. We all knew the surrounding countryside like the back of our hands, as we had grown up roving around in the trees and never thought anything of the fact that we were hanging around a graveyard at night. Anyway, this particular evening, a group of 7 girls had broken off from the group and walked down the sloping roadway by the church. We were a 10-minute walk away from the others and well out of earshot. We sat down in a circle at the base of a small rise in the field, and the sun had set behind the rise, so it was a pretty glow to it. We were chatting away when we heard something being killed in the bushes, like a rabbit screaming. One of my friends said jokingly, "It must be a werewolf." And I just laughed and said it must be a fox killing its dinner. About 2 minutes later, I looked up the rise and saw the biggest black dog wolf thing I had ever seen. I'm pretty sure I uttered the F word and everyone turned and looked. I know a lot about dogs. I'm an animal mad, used to want to be a vet. And this was taller than an Irish wolfhound, but bulky like a pit bull, with huge glowing eyes. It started to growl at us and just stood and stared. I can still hear the sound it made in its throat, even to this day. I told everyone to get up slowly and walk away, and not to run as it may chase. We all took about 5 steps, and someone shouted, "Run!" And we all descended into mass hysteria and bolted back up the hill. Of course, no one else in the group believed us. My best friend still hasn't forgiven me for leaving her behind, as she hated dogs anyway and was traumatized for ages. When we all got together, we still talk about it 9 years later. I've seen many paranormal things, but for some reason this one incident still incites fear in me. Also, about 4 years ago, I'd almost forgotten about the dog sighting, and I took my terrier for a walk up there. I don't go there often, as I now live about 3 miles away, and I kind of stumbled into this field not thinking. I paused on the rise as I suddenly remembered where I was, and the dog started to growl. We shot out of there pretty quick, let me tell you. Today's first Dogman encounter. In Elhorn, Montana, in the year of 1998, a small dairy farmer named Scott woke up one March morning to go out and do his chores. When he went out to get the cows ready for milking, he noticed they were acting abnormal. They seemed jumpy and afraid. He finally got them into the barn and into the stanchions and ready for milking, but they barely produced any milk at all. He knew something was wrong and watched them all day. As the day progressed, they seemed to calm down. He chalked it up to a neighborhood dog harassing them. The night passes, and the next morning he wakes up. The cows were once again in a panic, and 2 of his prize bovines were dead, with their bellies slashed open and their organs strewn about. It appeared something with long claws had done it. They also were just killed and did not appear to have been eaten. He then contacted the police. The police said they would check the area and blamed it on a mountain lion or a bear. He knew it wasn't any of these. Night settles in and he waits outside with his rifle. The night moves on and he hears the grass rustle, thinking he was going to see a dog or possibly a mountain lion. What he does see rising out of the field is a hulking monster, at least 6 feet tall. He describes it as a cross between a man and a wolf, with a human body and a wolfish head, glowing red eyes, a broad forehead, and a long snout with huge teeth protruding out of it. A massive chest and muscular arms, long hanging past its knees, with sharp claws at the end. Huge paws where its feet should be, but no tail. The creature took a step towards him, and Scott took aim and put a bead on its head. According to folks who knew him, he was an amazing shot. When he fired, the Dogman moved quickly and let out a yelp that he described sounded like a hurt dog. The bullet ripped through the creature's bicep, and the beast fled into the field on 4 legs. The Dogman came back throughout the year, but not every night. Scott then started to stay up at night and sleep during the day. He diligently protected his cows and farm. His friends were concerned with his health and safety and thought he was getting plagued by a deformed bear. Scott's body was found lifeless between the barn and house, face down. Long claw marks along his body, and his legs were slashed to pieces. Some of the surviving cows also had deep gashes on their body as well. Police found prints that resembled canine but were over 6 inches across. The police closed the case and labeled his death caused by a apparent bear attack. Tonight's second encounter was sent to me from a subscriber. At the time of my encounter, I had just purchased a house in Phillipsburg, New Jersey. May 5th, 2017, off exit 3 on Route 78, 5 minutes from Pennsylvania. My job at the time was 90 minutes away in Hackensack, New Jersey. I worked for a Home Depot at the time, 5 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. One day, early in November 2017, I was making my way to work. I left the house around 3:15, making my way to Route 78 eastbound, which is about 5 minutes from my house. Once on 78, I was in the fast lane, traveling about 75 miles an hour. At the time, I was driving a 2010 Chrysler Sebring. So I was about 50 feet behind a pickup truck who suddenly came to a stop. So I slammed on my brakes, swerving into the middle lane. Just as I clipped this dog on the right side of my bumper, never lost a stride. It looked like a dark brown German shepherd, 4 feet tall and on all fours. I rolled my window down to see if it was okay, and then it turned around and stepped onto the pavement. The pickup truck already peeled out, so when it started approaching me, I took off too. The next week, I got rid of that car and bought an SUV. A month and a half later, strange things started happening around my house. Tapping on my kitchen window, light scratches on the siding. It had been going on for every day for about a couple of weeks. Then one night, I was up late, about 11 in the night, doing dishes. I had a feeling I was being watched. When I looked out the window, I saw 2 amber eyes, leveled with me, looking at me, standing outside of my window. I got so scared my legs gave out on me. I couldn't move and I couldn't scream. I didn't own a gun at the time, so I started leaving my house with a 24-inch sword with jagged edges for sawing things. One day I was running late for work and it was raining heavily outside. I didn't leave my house until about 3:45, and I left my sword in the house. I was rushing to my car as I felt this primal fear come over me, so I turned around, and the same dog that I hit a few months back was standing 20 yards from me. Me, a few feet from my car and my sword in the house, I knew I wasn't gonna make it. I'm paralyzed with fear as it slowly approached me and stopped about 10 feet from me. As if I wasn't already terrified, it did something that would push my fear to its limits. It stood up on 2 legs, 8 feet tall, as I felt like a 5-year-old child looking up at an adult. I'm a retired bodybuilder, and its muscles definitely would make Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime look like the Nutty Professor. I was terrified and astonished at the same time, me being a retired bodybuilder and witnessing the perfect physique. I estimated its weight at 600 to 650 pounds. He looked at me like, "Don't forget what you did, I'm here for my payback." Then emitted a light growl that rumbled in my chest. Then he showed me its razor-sharp teeth and I soiled myself. Then it got about 5 feet and growled. I dropped to my knees and was praying that my death was quick. I looked to my left where the street was, and a patrol vehicle was making its rounds about 150 feet away. Yes, I'm safe. No, he never stopped. I'm crying now, and it was enjoying every moment of it. I was at its mercy, and it knew it. The patrol vehicle made its way back and hit the Dogman with its spotlight. It looked over to the cop and me and gave me an impression. I think I made my point. Jumped on my roof, went through my back, and took off in the direction of the woods, which would be a quarter of a mile away. And one thing I forgot to mention. There are houses everywhere. The cop exited his vehicle with his gun drawn. "Sir, are you okay?" "What the fuck was that? Do you need medical attention?" I responded, "No, I don't, and I don't know what that was." A month later, after I purchased my house, I installed surveillance cameras around my house. Didn't remember until a couple of days after my encounter. The whole encounter was recorded. However, government agents knew that and seized my DVR, but not until I backed up a copy to a flash drive. It's been 2 years since this encounter, and I feel like I'm still under surveillance. If you have any further questions, I'll do my best to answer. You know I asked a couple of questions. First question. When you said you feel like you're under surveillance, by whom? The government or the Dogman? Second, how did the police officer act? His answers. The police officer ended up calling medical services for me. I was in a trance-like state it took me 15 to 20 minutes to come out of. So he came to the hospital to question me after I regained my senses. He said when he first drove by he saw 2 people in his peripheral. As he got further away, he played these images in his head. When he realized the size difference wasn't normal, that's why he turned around and headed back towards me. As he approached, he thought he was looking at a Bigfoot until he saw a tail and a muzzle. He said he didn't have enough firepower on him to engage it. He was relieved that it decided to leave. His description of the Hulk with a wolf's head. He reported what he saw to his superior, and a couple of days later, plainclothes agent showed up at my house, questioned me profusely, and demanded access to my DVR and said what I saw was a bear that wandered into town and it'll be in my best interest not to tell anyone. I would see blacked out SUVs on the corner of my street for about a month, and every now and then they would drive by. What they didn't realize is 4 hours prior to them showing up, I backed up some footage on my DVR and USB. The government is well aware of these creatures, and they are tracking them, because a few nights after the incident, a black helicopter flying over the woods for 2 days. But folks, I hope you all enjoyed this upload as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that helps this channel to continue to grow and go, and honestly, what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened.
Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.